We're going to do a podcast today, so I'm going to basically just ask you to speak at me a little bit about your experience of infertility or baby loss or perinatal mental health, whatever it is that has brought you to us. And then we know that you've been a client at Muma Nurture, so if you're happy to speak about that, to basically tell us a bit about what's brought you to us, how you found it, what it's been like, kind of whatever you want to tell us. If I think of any along the way, I might ask you some questions, and we'll see where we get between us over the time.
Okay. So I came to Muma Nurture, I believe it's got to be 5 years ago.
Wow.
Originally. Yeah. 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 or 6 maybe years ago. When I was in a relationship with somebody who actually now I know didn't ever want to have children with me, but at the time he said he did. So I'd known him since I was about 15. I was diagnosed with polycystic ovaries, and the doctor who diagnosed me said that I would find it incredibly difficult to ever have children in my life. And since that stage, I'd never really had any regular periods. And when they had come, they'd been irregular, inconsistent, very heavy, uncomfortable. And basically, he'd put the fear of God into me about everything. And that had been kind of from my parents as well. There'd been a lot of fear around women's cycle and all of that stuff. So there was a real fear in me. And then when I met this particular guy, we said that we were going to have a family, we got engaged. And so I was working for an organisation at the time, and Muma Nurture's name was pinged to me in an email. And that was to share with my clients, actually, not with myself. And I read a little bit about yourself and thought, I think this is for me, it's not for anybody else. And then I contacted yourselves, and we had an initial consultation and looked at kind of what that would look like in terms of counselling. And I'd had counselling before for 6 sessions of bereavement counsellor, and at the time I was very much in the belief that I would have a few sessions of counselling and I would be fixed and done. So I went to a bereavement counsellor, and they did 6 sessions, and by the time that finished I thought, this has not really skimmed even the surface of what I needed to do. And actually I was having counselling with them and the consultation with you guys at the same time. And I thought, right, this is brilliant, because I'll get this all wrapped up in 6 months and I'll be happy days. And lo and behold, that's not what happens 5 or 6 years later, when I still am supported by the service. That's kind of how I initially came to you guys. And I was seen by yourself.
You were.
For a long time, which for me it's been an incredibly powerful journey. I've done lots of different therapy all through my life. It started with seeing a psychiatrist when I was a kid. Lots of people that told me what to do and how I should manage my mental health and what that looked like, and lots of tablets and things to manage all of that stuff. And it got me through, and I really appreciate it as part of my journey now. I think if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have ended up here. And also, every time somebody directed me to what I should do, it just pushed me further away from who I was and what I needed. So I think at first I found counselling tough because I was looking for somebody to tell me what to do. And that isn't the experience that I had. It was actually a space that for the first time ever, and now that I'm doing my counselling training myself, I can see what was happening through the theory of it. At the time, I had no idea. I just knew that for the first time I was being listened to in my life, that I was being accepted for who I actually was. And there was kind of this positive regard for who I was, and it didn't matter what I brought to the table or what I said or what I felt. It was just all okay. And that was probably the first time in my life that had ever happened. Thank you. So yeah, so it kind of unraveled a lot of things. I came here thinking that we would talk about all of the things that happened to me, and that would be how we unraveled my story. And actually, the more time spent in a therapeutic relationship with somebody, the more I realised that's not actually what's important. What's been important is getting a grip of what beliefs I hold around women, and how incredible they are, which is not what I believed when I first came here. I definitely believe that women weren't enough. They were, in comparison to a man, they weren't as powerful, they weren't as special, they weren't any of those things. And now I sit in a place where I run circles for women, which is a big shift in how I ever thought I would think. I always kind of felt like we were against each other. And having sat with myself and unraveled all those beliefs around that, God, that was never mine to hold. That wasn't, it was just a story that was fed to me. And now I sit in a space where for the past few months, I've had my regular periods. And I feel so much safer in my skin than I ever have in my life. And I think that that's all been a part of it. And the more I've kind of unraveled that, the more I've found that I feel connected to being a woman. And that's a really, really special thing. Which, yeah, like I said, I never ever thought I would. I'm not in a position at the moment to have children with anybody, so that's just not where I'm at. But my belief has shifted massively from this belief that I held for so long that I would just never have children because that's what this guy in a white coat told me would happen. And I really believe that belief is what stopped me having periods. I think that's what, that I just wasn't capable of doing that. And I think that was so deep rooted that it's taken years to unravel that and to trust that my body is very capable of doing just like a lot of other women in the world, having a regular cycle. And then eventually, I do believe now that my body I will have children. I don't quite know what that will look like or when that will look, but I'm trying not to hold on to that and just trust that if I've been able to unravel what I've unraveled to get to a stage now where I am having a regular cycle and that's doing its thing, then there's no reason, apart from beliefs that I hold maybe around what that looks like to have children, that I can't. And that is a far cry because I really remember in my consultation being absolutely distraught that I would never ever have children. And that broke my little heart because that's all I ever wanted was to be a mum. And it still is. It's massive for me. Like that's so important. I think maybe when you come from a tricky family, there are things that, as much as I know that I won't be the perfect mum, and that doesn't exist, I do know that I can give my child absolute unconditional love, which is something that wasn't given to me, and I can give them that positive regard that they're always just okay, whether I'm around or I'm not around, and all of those beliefs that were fed to me, I can now see in space, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't need to be. Your life can start in a place where actually you feel good enough in your skin, and that's probably enough to give you a good grounding and a route to move forward in life. And I feel really excited that, in a way that I haven't had kids yet, because I don't think, even sometimes still when I speak to my dogs and I think, do you want to feed that to a child, Ashley? Not really. I said to them the other day as I left, oh, don't worry, I'll be home soon. And I thought, no, like that's still not something I'd want to say to my children. Like, they don't need to worry, they're safe, they're fine. I'm not going to leave them ever with somebody that wouldn't look after them or do the things they won't need me to survive. And I think that this counselling journey has been and continues to be that, this kind of discovery of actually what do I really want to be as a parent, who do I want to be as a parent, what do I want to be able to give my children as they grow up. And I think 10 years ago, it would have all been material. It would have been financially being secure, all of this stuff. And now it isn't that at all. It's just love, really, from both the parents. Um, and part of me and part of this has been an unraveling of that I believe my body's protected me all of this time from having children until I'm ready to do or give a child what I believe that they need. Then my body won't let me do that. So I think that's a little bit of how I got here and what the journey has been like so far, and continues to be. And it's kind of, it unravels all sorts of things that I never thought would be a part of it. And now I have counselling with Karen.
Mm-hmm.
So we shifted from when you had Zane, wasn't it? He came along, and then I know I had a little bit of a break in between. And I think that break was really good for me. I think it gave me that chance to be in the world on my own and know that I didn't need a third party to do that unraveling. And also, I appreciate the space like nobody could believe. I think for me, that 50 minutes a week is so powerful. It's unbelievable. The relief I often feel afterwards, it comes with a lot of stuff, but it also comes with a sense of like, oh, okay, like it's just nice to be able to unravel stuff. And I think I've been blessed in so many ways, because in our counselling training we do triads, and I talk about all of this divine feminine stuff, and you can see their faces like, I have no fucking idea what she's talking about. And I feel like that was never here. And working with yourself and Karen, there's an understanding of that between us, and I think I can actually properly talk to you about these things and not feel like I'm going mental. And I kind of believe that any good counsellor would offer that as a space, because that's what they're meant to do. And also, I think I've just been really lucky in the way that I think you bring your people, and your people come to you. And I felt like all of that's been really well received and understood, and heard, really, and allowed me access further into it. I don't know this, but I would imagine that there's some people that don't live in the depths of the sea like I do, and they kind of just live on the surface, and they might not think about our ancestral trauma or what's going on in our cells or all of those things. But to me, those things are really important. And the more space that's held for me to open all of that and pull all that apart, the stronger I feel about women and how we are in this world, and how we supporting each other is hugely important. And I feel like that's the space that's been held. So I really feel like I've been really lucky with having both of you as counsellors, because I think actually it could have been that I could have been shut off at any stage not to do that journey, and that's been massive. Karen gave me some books the other day on like the goddesses and things like that, and it just shows me and confirms even more that I'm not talking to a blank screen. Like there's depth behind that, and it's understood.
Well, and I think that is part and parcel of the service that we offer, and the reason that we think it's really important for people to seek out specialist support. So in my experience, it's really not that unusual for somebody struggling with infertility to also have maybe a disconnect with their feminine energy, maybe some sort of discord about being female. And by that I mean it might be as simple as feeling like men just have it easier, and actually it's a bit unfair that here you are living this life and there's so much more expected from you. But that in itself can set off a whole chain of events in your body. I mean, you've been speaking kind of vaguely about kind of psychosomatic stuff, but the reality of being a counsellor is that stuff is real. You know, quite often we hold stuff in our heads and our hearts that are impacting what is going on in our body. So at the crux of it, what we work with here is quite medical. but it's not at all. Like, we're really working in the emotional stuff. And the purpose of being a person-centered, client-centered counsellor and or counselling service is that you're working with where the person's at. So if you want to be deep in the depth of your sea, swimming around with your goddesses and seeing how that might be for you, great. But like you say, some people, they're not there. Like, they're not even ready to dip their toe in yet. And therefore, it's for us to be able to work at the level they're at.
Yeah. And I've really felt that. I really felt like, yeah. And when I first started here, I was nowhere near dipping my toes in that sea. I wasn't up for it. I didn't. It was very much on the surface. I just wanted those things that had happened to me to be fixed. And it's taken all those 5-6 years, however long it's been, to slowly start to dip my toes in a sea and be like, oh, okay, this is all actually what's underneath the surface, is what's really powering and firing all of this stuff. And yeah, and I don't think I would have ever believed that 10 years ago if somebody had said that to me. It's the stuff that you believe and you hold in your heart that will be how your body works. And I've read a million books on these things, and still none of that really sunk in until I did it for myself and was like, oh no, this really does happen. And it really exists within me. And yeah, and being able to unravel all of that and understand where that's come from and why that's there, and that doesn't only exist within me, that exists in lots of different women, and that actually there are ways that we can shift or change, transform beliefs that we hold. I really remember that I would just say, well, it's just me, it's just how I am. And now I don't believe that. It's a belief that I hold, and I choose actually whether I want to hold it or I want to just tweak it a little bit, or whether actually I just want it to be gone. I don't want to hold that belief anymore. And the power of that for me has been absolutely phenomenal. I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing in my life if I hadn't done all of that. I think I'd still be working in an employed job, which I hated, and now I kind of pinch myself sometimes. I'm like, am I actually living this life? Is this actually happening? And I am, and I never thought that I would pay my own bills or do any of that stuff. I just didn't believe that I was capable of doing any of that, and now I do and do it well. And I think it still blows my mind that I just never thought that would be the case. So yeah, so it's been tough. Like, I'm not going to say that it's been easy by any stretch of the imagination. I think it takes a huge amount of bravery a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been plenty of times where I just want to run away from it and just be like, no, I just want to bury my head back in the sand and be done with it. And every time I think that, it lasts for a matter of hours, and then I think, no, that's not what
I can also vaguely remember us having that conversation, like out loud, quite near the beginning.
Yeah.
Where you said, sometimes I've had enough and I just don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like,
yeah.
If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But also, if you feel like that, you could bring it and we could work with it.
Yeah.
I think that might have been the beginning of the... So see, for me, I find my job an amazing privilege. Like, and for me, we've been lucky enough that you've kind of come back in and out of the service and have supported in other ways, that I've got to see the whole of your journey. So, that's lovely for me. Some people come and go, and I don't know whatever happens to them. And, the best professional will in the world, people hold a place in your heart. They do, and you really want the best for them. And the nosy aspect of you would quite like to know how that played out often. But all that stuff was clearly already there. It was just heavily kind of weighted down by a lot of beliefs you were holding.
Yeah.
But like you've kind of referred to, they weren't really your own. They were just stuff that was given to you. So I think, that kind of the initial bravery of being able to say, I'm really not sure if I want to do this. I kind of do, but I'm not sure. And being able was the kind of beginning of being able to know there even was a blanket you could lift and look underneath. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I really remember coming to you one day and saying to you, I've been lying to you. I haven't told you the truth about a lot of things, and I've hidden a lot of things. And I think that was one of the first days. I was like, actually, I'm gonna open this drawer and see what's really in it. And I remember you saying to me, that is very honest, actually. And I was like, I think I need to be honest now, because I think if I don't, then I'm just going to stay here on the surface of everything, and I'm never going to get to the what's actually going on inside me. And yeah, and it did take a lot of courage to do that, I think. And I've been hard on myself for many years, and now I kind of pat myself on the back and go, I'm really fucking glad you did that.
Also, you're not so hard on yourself now at all, are you?
No.
You're whatever we call it, what we call it, because it's not an internal narrative, is it? It's outer. But the way you speak and speak about yourself is vastly different from the woman I met however many years ago it was.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of self-berating constantly, wasn't there?
It was cruel to myself. And I look back at it now and there is a sadness in my heart for that. And that's something we've been working with recently, is working with that kind of idea that actually I just have to be grateful for all of those parts of me.
Yeah, because you have to be that to be this.
And that's been massive, absolutely massive, to start to kind of be kind to that. I keep hearing songs, and they talk about forgiving yourself. And we spoke about it last week, and I was like, it just puts a lump in my throat, because I don't think there's anything to forgive. I don't think I did anything wrong. I think I did everything to get me to where I am now, and that's amazing. And it needed all of that surface level stuff for me to get anywhere near where kind of the sessions go now. It's wild when I think about the things we talk about. It just, if anybody could hear them outwardly, I wonder what they think. And also, I don't really care, because if it's doing what I need it to do for me, then that's all that really matters as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, it's definitely been a journey, and it's taken lots of courage and patience with myself, and an ability to be honest in a way that I've never been honest before in my life. And then outwardly that reflects. Now I'm far more honest in who I am as a person, who I am with other people, how I feel in a moment. I don't not hide things. And also, I'm now aware when I'm doing it and when I'm not, and that's huge for me. I think I never really knew that I was hiding lots of myself, until I kind of was able to highlight it and be like, oh, yeah, that's what you're doing. So it kind of, it's definitely been, there's been times where there's weeks of turmoil afterwards, because you just like blew something apart. That in the last couple of weeks, I've had International Women's Day, and then I held an event for the equinox, and it means bringing lots of women together. And I think sometimes that stirs up all sorts of stuff inside me. And whereas before, I think I would have been terrified of that. Now it's hard, and it feels hard, and also I can trust that that's an unraveling, and that's really cool, actually. Under the surface, if I can sit with those feelings and I can be brave enough to actually hold them, what comes underneath that is incredibly powerful and cool, and has given me that courage to hold that space for other women as well, so that they've got the ability and space to do those things, which was something I wasn't really offered when I was younger. And I think that's something I've definitely learned, is that the things that we didn't get when we were kids, we're very good at offering as adults. And that's really cool. And I think hopefully that will move into my parenting journey whenever that happens. That I will be able to offer outwardly what I maybe wasn't offered. And then there'll be other things I just won't do as well at. We'll go with that.
I think that's kind of part of the thing, isn't it? I mean, there's literally a book called They Fluff You Up. Like, that's the premise of it, that our job as parents is to give our children issues that they need to resolve in their own right to become well-adjusted adults. And I think Yeah. Like whatever you do, right or wrong, is there even a right or wrong? You know, like your child is going to garner some issues from that. Like,
Absolutely.
because even the most mollycoddled child in the world will have some issues probably from being too mollycoddled.
Absolutely.
And vice versa, like the most independent child will, like there just is no way of doing it right.
Yeah.
And the part of the job is that. Also, I think part of the job is modelling being a well-adjusted adult yourself and having all of those emotions and all of that stuff. And can you do that if you don't do that,
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel much more now that I can do that, and that's a place, and that's never a belief I held, that I could do anything actually. And now most things, if somebody says, "Can you do that?" I think, yeah, I probably could.
If I wanted to.
If I wanted to, yeah. Which is a nice place to be. A very nice place to be.
Yeah. I guess I just want to say a little something about, because clearly you're not actively trying for babies right now, and yet you come to the service. Well, I think sometimes people have the idea that they must be struggling with one of our specified issues to a significant level at this point in time in order to come here and have support. And I think although that's where you were at the beginning, that's clearly not where you're at now. And actually what you're doing is kind of preparatory work for when you get there. And all of that stuff's welcome here too. I think it's the actually some of the I don't know if the nicest stories to watch or whatever is the thing to say, but is where people have come in advance of a struggle they believe they might have.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that actually when they get there, they've already done the processing for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of, when I first came, there was this urgency, this sense of like, it has to happen now. And now there's just an innate trust in me that actually this is all a process, and it will all be a part of my little story at the end. That, to get to here, to be having regular periods and trust that they're going to come every month, even that is massive. Absolutely massive. And I think that is all preparation, because without those in place, there's not a lot that, obviously there's lots of different fertility treatments and stuff that you can go through. But yeah, without a regular cycle, for me, it felt so hopeless without a regular cycle. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, who really wants to be in a position where the only option available to you is some form of fertility treatment if you don't need to be there?
Yeah.
Obviously for some people that is the situation and that is a need, but for a lot of people, actually, there could be some kind of personal work or preparatory work or whatever we're going to call it. It's vastly different for different people. It's not everybody is an emotional thing.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, there are small issues that they could resolve that might help those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And then even if it's not physically prepping you, mentally prepping you for what's to come, I think I can only imagine, but I would imagine being a parent brings a full range of emotions. And to be able to hold those emotions in space and be okay with them must be incredibly powerful for the adult and for the child, because I can't even imagine, but it must be a wild ride. So to be able to sit with that and go, it's okay, I'm just doing this because it's okay.
I can only really speak from personal experience. I don't think anything can truly prepare you for parenthood. And I've counselled a lot of people that would say the same thing. But I do think the safer you are in your own skin, the more capable you feel as a human being, the more resilience you have, the more manageable that is. Because I think essentially, were I to describe my experience, it's a bit like you and your partner have got this, really safe, reliable boat, and you're having a really lovely float down somewhere, and you think, oh, it'd be lovely. Add a little person in here, because our boat's so safe and so lovely. And actually, that's not what happens. It's a bit like someone torpedoes your boat, and then you have to work out how to kind of fill it out and keep floating, or if you're actually going to even get back on the boat, if it's rescuable. And I think that, kind of happens each time you add a child to the mix. So it's of little wonder, I think, that people as individuals are massively impacted, like people's relationships are massively impacted. And I think probably the better prepared for life in general you are in yourself, the more manageable that is. I don't know that it necessarily makes it any easier for anybody.
No, absolutely not.
But I think if you have that little part of you that goes, well, everything's temporary, this too shall pass, or whatever it is your little mantra is, it's okay. Like, everything's manageable when we know that everything's temporary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been a huge part of my learning, just in general. And that's been incredibly powerful to do and continue to do. I'm kind of under no illusion anymore that it will be 6 months and I'll be done.
It's been considerably longer than that already, hasn't it? So,
and I think that will just continue to be, and I think that that's a really beautiful thing, actually, and a really lovely thing to know that this space is here, so that I know that there'll be times where I don't have counselling, and there'll be times where I might want to come back. And
well, as you've already done, haven't you?
Yeah. And actually, to have this service here is just an amazing thing to have. And I've really enjoyed doing things alongside the charity, as well as being a part of the therapeutic part of this practice, because it's the only one of its kind, as far as I know, particularly in this area. So it's been phenomenal to have the service here. It's something I would have known nothing about had it not been for that email. So.
Synchronicity.
Absolutely. And the point of these things, I suppose, to get a bit of the word out there that you guys are here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of feel like we might have come to a natural end, but I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So this is Ashley. Ashley and I co-facilitate the Women's Circle that is run monthly. If anyone would ever like to join us, you can find out more information about that on our new website. And for the podcast, we'll